Mac and Perry in the place. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry go live to create. Da-na-na-na. Mac and Perry invite you to stay.
Welcome to TELUS STORYHIVE On Location here in Lloydminster. I'm Michael Bartz. I make short films and podcasts about environmental sustainability. And this is my co-host,
Daniel J. Perryman, local theatre and filmmaker based in Lethbridge, Alberta. And this is
Brittany Murphy, owner of BR Films and also a filmmaker.
I'd love to just dive into like where you've been and your experiences and maybe talk about some projects and just learn about your journey. It could be great to discover. So I guess we can maybe elaborate on maybe, as a filmmaker, kind of our first question would be, what is your creative practice? If you could just kind of summarize it briefly.
So I think of filmmaking as noticing. So noticing movement, noticing light, noticing the things that people say, and then finding music that conveys emotion and putting it all together into a video form.
Oh, great. So that's lovely. I definitely have questions about that. But we'll go maybe to the start of your creative practice. I guess, my first question would be like, when did you first pick up a camera?
So I remember I've liked photography ever since I was a little kid. I would take disposable cameras to camp and take what I thought were artsy pictures and take them to Walmart or whatever and get them developed. Then I got a point and shoot camera and I would put that in my purse and carry it around with me all times of the day. I was that person that was taking pictures of their lunch before food pics were cool. And then anytime in school there's a project, I would try to make it into a video project, kind of something like that with my point and shoot. So the audio was terrible, but that's okay. I was just having fun with it. And then when I got more into high school is when I started learning more about filmmaking and doing more with it.
Maybe just before that last comment of you're just making films, do you remember any of the projects or kind of things you were making when you were younger?
Yes. Okay, so I can't remember what grade it was, but we did a project on Titanic and we had this old wooden ship at our city park. And so we went on the ship and pretended it was the Titanic, and we wore these dresses that I had from when I was a kid that were former grad dresses and stuff, dress up clothes. And then I was a swim club member, so I asked the pool if we could use the pool, and they had this room underneath, a boiler room with a little window that I remembered seeing when I was swimming. So I went in there and got my friend to pretend she was drowning in the water in this dress. Again, I don't remember how old we were. We were probably teenaged, but I'm thinking now that was a wild project, and I wish I could find that. Maybe one day I'll try.
Then in high school, you started to learn more about filmmaking. Tell me more about that time in your life.
Yeah, I feel our high school has some good classes, with web design, and I'm sure since I've graduated 15 years ago, it's evolved even more. But there was this one class specifically called CPT. I should really remember what it stood for, but maybe communication something technology. And so my teacher really encouraged us to write our own films, and I think we made a horror movie because that's the easiest genre to make just as starting out in film, I think. Maybe doesn't require that much acting, maybe. As an actor, you probably disagree. But so we did some actual projects then, and that was my favorite class. So I was hey, this is something that I'm passionate about.
So after that, what came next in your filmmaking creative journey?
Yeah, so I think one day I was just looking at websites on the internet and I found this ad for a film school in Kelowna. It was an art school, but they had a film program. And so I had always wanted to live in Kelowna. That was the main thing for me, BC, warmer weather and the Okanagan, all the beaches and everything there. That's lovely. So I applied and I got in and went and did that for a bit.
Oh, nice. Yeah. And so that was after high school or during?
I took a year off and just saved up money.
And so you were actively looking for film school specifically in your post-secondary?
I think it just happened. I'd always loved photography, and I thought of going to school for that. And my parents are like, you could just learn that as like a hobby. And like people do go to school for it. Like there is lots of stuff that you do need to learn, but you also can teach yourself. So they were like, you should go to school for film because you need to go to school. And then after I got to school, they're like, you don't need to go to school for film. And I'm like, oh dang. They're like, you will start on a film set, you'll get people coffee, and then one day you could be a director if you do that long enough.
Let's talk about your time in Kelowna in film school.
Yeah.
So you applied, you got in, you moved out there. Yeah, tell me about that experience.
Yeah, so we got to do a lot of projects. You learn like pre-production, post-production, script writing, like all that kind of stuff. You don't really learn acting, but we found local actors in the community just online or like on Kijiji. I can't quite remember how we found them. And then we like literally hired them to work on our projects for free in our student films. And so that was really cool, just like directing people and getting them to like see your vision come to life, that sort of thing. So I remember I did one documentary about a football player that had passed away and like his impact on the community, because he was like a pretty big deal in the Kelowna area. So yeah, that was really neat. And another one of my school projects, we actually went to Seattle. So it's not too far away from Kelowna, right? You're pretty close to the border. And I am really passionate about sushi. So I found a sushi chef there, and we went and interviewed him, and I made like I don't know, I think it was 5 or 10 minute documentary about like sushi and the history and how he got into making it and stuff. And so that was really neat. And I did win a little award for that at my school. So yeah,
great,
that was fun. But yeah, we also went to a film festival in Seattle just to like go and enjoy the art there. So yeah.
How was the Seattle Film Festival?
Oh, it was really cool. Yeah, I enjoyed it a lot. And then we got to go to Vancouver a couple of times too with our school and like see all the areas where they film and stuff like that. So that was neat, just like eye-opening. And then I decided I do not want to work on film sets.
No?
Because they said like the hours are like so long and like sure you have work for like 6 months, but you don't like really have family time. And I always wanted to be a mom. That was one of my dreams ever since I was little. And so I'm like, this isn't really conducive to the life I want. So then I was like, maybe filmmaking in that capacity isn't like the route I want to go.
So it's kind of a bit
I'm
of
sure we'll get to that part after. Sorry,
No,
I'm skipping
No,
ahead
no, not at all. Yeah, no. Yeah, that would be a question I was going to ask was, how it maybe changed, like influenced your creative practice. And so, maybe you realize you don't want to work on scripted films in Vancouver. More like documentary or
I've always wanted to get into documentaries, and we had a class where we would go and interview people on the street, kind of do like streeters and make like news stories. And so I kind of found that really fun. And then my mom had told me there's a job in Lloyd at the TV station that you should apply for. So I sent in my resume, and 2 days later they called me and were like, what job do you want? So that was kind of cool. And then I ended up being the camera woman for the news in town.
So you went to film school. All right, we got someone,
So I didn't have much experience with the news, but I got to learn as I went. And it's really cool. And a good way to meet people in the community, right? Because you're always interviewing like the police captain or stuff like that, fire chief, the mayor, stuff like that. So that was neat.
You're working in broadcasting. You had that experience earlier in Kelowna where you did that wedding and you realized, hey, this is something I'm really passionate about. And then you said you started BR Films, right? Yeah, tell me about the beginning of that.
I started filming like a couple weddings, and then every year I was filming more. I did some commercial work for the city and some like bigger businesses in town. And I don't know, there was just a lot of variety of projects that I've got to work on over the years, and a lot of really kind people that I've got to meet throughout. One of my favorite things to film is people giving birth.
Okay.
I know everyone like cringes and is like, oh no, like, but it's not like that. It's very tasteful, and I usually turn everything black and white just so it's like classic. And But there's just something so powerful about someone like meeting their baby for the first time and like going through this like wild experience, and then like, yeah, just the ending is so great when they get to meet their child for the first time. And yeah, just capturing those moments that they want to remember forever is my favorite thing to do.
Yeah, it sounds very special. Yeah, and yeah, we can talk more about that. So I guess, yeah, what led to you doing birth videos?
So the very first one I got to film was my sister giving birth. So kind of had an in that way where she felt comfortable with me being in the room. And then a friend from high school, I also got to film all 3 of her kids being born. So yeah.
I think we've got a clip of that. No, we won't show you.
Like I said, it's very tasteful.
Yeah, I know. Yeah.
It's more the moments like surrounding and then afterwards when they're holding their child and stuff like that. So yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, and what comes to mind for that is like, that's a very sometimes private moment. Like I said, like a wedding might still be that way, but a lot of it can be very public. Yeah, I guess, what is that conversation like when someone approaches you and says, I want to do a birth video, to make sure that they're comfortable with you being in the room with the camera? What's that process like?
Well, yeah, I think if they've like seen your work and they like trust that you're gonna get like good angles and that they know like kind of the final product that they're getting, I guess, is like this keepsake video for their kids to look back on. Like my friend says her kids love watching it. So if I could just like describe it a little bit. So I kind of like interviewed them about like the day and like how they like went into labor and all like the lead up and everything, and then like how they felt when they met their baby and all that kind of stuff. And then sometimes if there's other siblings, they like have me record them like telling them that they're having a baby, or their gender reveal, or the kids meeting their sibling for the first time, which is so precious, and just like the little things that kids say to their new sibling. So, and then we kind of put it all together, and so it's like this memory, right?
Yeah, no, that sounds very special, and yeah, that makes sense if you're also like interviewing them and getting those, like you said, noticing those moments, and it sounds lovely. Yeah, would that be like quite a popular thing that you do it with BR films?
I honestly haven't done as many as I would like because the timing is so tricky, right? So it's like you never know when someone's going to go into labor, and there was a few times that people would want me to film it, but I would have another wedding booked or something that weekend that like I was committed to, so I couldn't be in 2 places at once. And just like making sure you get to the hospital on time, or that you're not like sitting for like 6 hours while they're like in labor, right? Because every birth is so different. Yeah.
No, that makes sense. Yeah, you can't just postpone it and we'll film it next week. And I guess we can kind of maybe talk about the journey within BR Films, maybe. So like, you started it, I guess, from kind of the beginnings, if we can kind of track along there. Like kind of like within that, like what came next in your creative journey, if you can think of like another kind of milestone within that.
I'm trying to think. All I can think of is I had my kids, and then I kind of stepped away from filmmaking for a bit. So now the past couple of years has just been me coming back to it and adapting to new trends, I guess, as you'd say, in the social media world and all that kind of stuff, and just working on maybe shorter form content than say 10 years ago when I started my company and everyone wanted like 10-minute videos, and now it's like 30 seconds, right? So just like learning how to change your process and figure out what people want and what people will watch, I guess.
Tell me a bit more about being involved in, a smaller Alberta, Saskatchewan town, and the film community within this town.
Yeah, we have a lot of very talented people here, and there are a lot of projects, so it's good that there's quite a few people that are into filmmaking now, because back when I started my company, I was the only person, and then if I couldn't film a wedding, I would feel so bad, because I'm like, I don't know who to recommend, like, unless you want to hire someone from like Edmonton or Calgary or Saskatoon to come. So now there's so many more options for people, and there's so many very talented people, which is good because there's a lot of people that want video work now, right? Like video kind of exploded the last 15 years since I've been out of film school. So,
So we can talk a bit about that, where like that shift from like, you said like, 15 years ago, people want like 10, 15-minute videos, and now they want something shorter. Maybe just tell me a bit more about that, about how that maybe has changed your filmmaking.
Yeah, I guess if we are doing a longer project, sometimes we just like split it up into segments. So instead of like one really long video, we do like 3 or 4 little short ones that you can share at different times. My biggest struggle these days is figuring out whether to film vertically or horizontal. Because it's like, what medium are we, like what platform are we putting it on? Are people watching things on their TV, or are most people watching on their phones and they're holding them upright? So that kind of breaks my filmmaker heart sometimes. But because you have to compose it different, right? You're not going to shoot it wide and then crop it, and then it's not what you had in mind when you planned the shot. So yeah, I don't know.
Yeah,
always growing and changing and adapting, right? So, and I think that's what like creativity is just figuring out how to problem solve. And
yeah, and then if it's just like you said at the beginning, like you're noticing those moments and capturing births or weddings and what have you, and I guess it doesn't. You can just adapt and change, and is that like a conversation you have, at the beginning when you meet with a client, let's say, of like, what do you want? And then like you decide whether it's, because they would say it's for social media or it's for whatever. Are you kind of having that conversation where you're deciding vertical, horizontal?
I think we work together, but I try to like recommend based on like what I've learned over the years and doing marketing stuff for a while too, and being like, maybe this is the direction we should go, depending on like, are you going to put it on your website? Are you going to put it here? And sometimes we film both ways.
Oh, yeah.
I set up one camera vertically, one camera horizontal, so we have the footage, right?
Okay.
So always problem solving. I think that's another thing that filmmaking is, just like going to a situation, figuring out what's the lighting like, where should we put the angles, and then you just figure out the best possible way that you can do it, and if it doesn't work, pivot, right?
Yeah, was there ever any project, just any time that comes to mind? Like, was there ever a project where like things like really went sideways, where something went wrong, and you were able to adapt and kind of salvage it? You don't have to name names or anything, but any stories come to mind? Yeah.
I don't know how many people are going to watch this.
Many, thousands of people are watching this right now.
The one time I did format a card mid-wedding, and that was terrifying. And I was so worried about it. And I was like, do I tell the couple? But we hadn't done the ceremony yet. It was just getting ready. And I had 2 cameras, so one of them still had footage on it of getting ready. It was just some of my like artsy shots got lost. But I'm like, I don't want to stress them out with this. I was going to keep going. But like you were saying with your lav mic, sometimes mics don't work. Sometimes like a camera dies and you didn't know, and then you go over and you're like, oh, this isn't recording, or you double tap the record button. These things keep me up at night sometimes. So I don't know. I think every time something goes wrong, you just learn for next time and fix it in post. That's my tip.
Fair enough, yeah. And with that wedding, like, so formatting the card, was it just a mistake you made?
Yeah, I was just
oops.
seeing how much space was on it, and then I accidentally clicked format, and you can't erase that.
Yeah.
So luckily, I don't have any wood near me, but luckily I haven't had like a hard drive crash or something, because I know that's big for filmmakers, and like all your footage is on that, and you haven't backed it up. So yeah, you try to take all the precautions you can.
Yeah, and then learn from. That's well, like you said, like earlier on, like going to film school or not, like because maybe probably a lot of learning that happens through experience, and that's how you figure it out. Yeah. Totally. Yeah, especially if you're capturing those moments that you can't recreate or do another take or come back next week. So we'll have time for one more question, and we'll get on to the showcase and talk more about some of the projects and see some of them. I guess one question we try to ask people at the end is like, how has your creative practice, filmmaking, how has that like influenced your everyday life?
And I'm going to go back to noticing. Okay. So I love noticing light shining through windows, especially like early in the morning or at sunset. Shadows of like leaves and plants when the sun like shines through them. And I do notice a lot while I'm running too, because that's just like a way you're in nature and you can see. And so I just find myself noticing things around me at all times and wanting to document it, whether it's with a phone camera or video. And I do film a lot of my kids too. So I grew up with like home videos, and I think that's so special. And so I try to do that for my daughters as well.
Good, very good. I'm glad you can capture their moments as well. It's not just your work. And, nice. Yeah, well, I really enjoyed the conversation, learning about your filmmaking journey. So thanks so much.
Thank you. It's been great.
Good. Yeah. So this has been TELUS Storyhives on location in Lloydminster at Catchy Cafe. I'm Michael Bartz. I make short films and podcasts about environmental sustainability. And this is my co-host,
Daniel J. Perryman, local theatre and filmmaker based in Lethbridge, Alberta. And this is
Brittany Murphy, owner of VR Films and a filmmaker.
and we'll be right back.
Hello and welcome back to TELUS Storyhives on location in Lloydminster. We're at the Catchy Cafe. My name is Daniel J. Perryman, local theatre and filmmaker based in Lethbridge, Alberta. This is my lovely co-host,
Michael Bartz. I make short films and podcasts about environmental sustainability. And this is
Brittany Murphy, owner of VR Films and also a filmmaker.
I'm super excited to jump into a bit of a showcase of your work here. And yeah, I think the first piece that we'll play is just a behind the scenes kind of video that you had made at one point. And so yeah, we're gonna hopefully play it here shortly and just kind of let it run, I think.
Cool.
Yeah, and so in watching this piece, I just think it was super insightful, like getting a behind the scenes insight into your process. And it really kind of exemplified like the playfulness, I think, of you like as a creative and as a filmmaker and as your business. So I was just wondering if you could like speak to that a little bit, just that idea of creativity and play when you're on set and you know, where do you find that? Or has that always been the case? Or have you had to learn that? Yeah, what comes to mind?
I always like thinking of different angles of things because so often we're just like seeing everything from eye level, and so I like to do like lower like angles, like really like why are the words escaping me all of a sudden?
Sure, specific
or
like tight.
I like really like depthy shots, and so this was a fun project because I got to make some content for my friend's company, and it felt like very low stakes, and like I could just kind of be as creative as I wanted, like you said. And so I was just like, let's try something new. I bought some plexiglass and was like, I'm gonna go under it because I didn't want to get my camera dirty. And then like, just try sprinkling this. And so yeah, it was just, like you said, trying to be creative and just like exercise different parts of my brain.
No, that's super
Try
fair.
new things, and sometimes they don't work out too. I've tried a bubble tea shot like that, and it didn't work with the cup and all the layers and stuff. So I think it's all just like trial and error, and sometimes they work out, and you get a really cool creative shot.
You had mentioned like in your interview with Michael, just that idea of like, you know, what format are we filming in? And like, that was obviously behind the scenes content and vertical, I assume, right?
Yeah.
And so, you know, from that shoot specifically, what was that like, balancing your time and energy between what you're actually trying to film versus also like the other cameras in the space and filming vertically? What was that process like?
Yeah, I think nowadays we have to be so many things as like business owners and get the behind the scenes, get the shots, and also just be a human and interacting, right? So if you can do things with people that you already know and you feel comfortable with, it's okay to like take those risks and be like, I'm gonna set up this other camera for us on the side, just to like get another angle and stuff. So I don't know, you're always just thinking of a million things at the same time, I think, being a filmmaker. Yeah. Like sounds and lighting and movement and stuff.
And that, you know, brings to mind another thing is like, are you a one man band, one woman band? You know what I mean? Are you the only person trying to balance all those things? Is that
most times, especially if it's just like a shoot at a business or something that's only going to take a couple of hours. If it's a full event, I'll usually have a second shooter, just that being in two places at the same time kind of thing, right? And the more cameras you have, the less easy it is to do everything, right? So I'll usually hire someone else to help me too.
Nice. Right on. Very cool. Cool. We'll move on to our second piece here. And so yeah, hopefully we can see the video coming up, but we can just keep talking through this one, I think. And yeah, it was a giveaway. There's jam involved. There's a lovely shot of a piece of toast hitting a plate. And who was that for? What was that for?
Yeah, so last Christmas season, I kind of got the idea of just wanting to promote some local businesses in our community. I think shopping local along the holidays and any time is really important, right? Because that's how small shops and businesses stay open. And so I just kind of selected some of my favorite local companies that I wanted to showcase, and then I like gave away the products at the end. So that jam one specifically was through our library, and a producer that makes jams and teas and a bunch of other local things called Lower Shannon Farms. And it was like a fundraiser for the library. So every time you bought a jar of jam, it helped fundraise for the library. So yeah, I just liked getting to be a little more creative than I get to be sometimes. Having full creative control over my shots and trying new things like dropping toast on a plate and seeing how it goes. I think it took a few times to get the drop right.
Sure. I'm just curious about just that idea as like a small business owner, and just, you know, your ability, your autonomy maybe, to kind of integrate and bring those circles together, those things that you love in the community, and just bringing those things together. So like, what did it mean to you to kind of do that with your business, but also the library and then this local creator? What did that mean to you?
Yeah, I like promoting businesses and nonprofits and things that I'm passionate about whenever I possibly can. I also made a video for Catchy Cafe, which I'm sure you're going to get to.
Yeah.
So yeah, just whenever you can shout out like good things in your community and help build up other businesses too, I think that's really important. And it not only will help your business grow, it helps theirs too. And I think that's what it's all about, right?
Yeah.
We want everyone to succeed.
Totally. Yeah. There was a thought with that. There was just that idea of like in the acting world, like there's that idea of you go for auditions and there's lots of rejection, but trying to maintain that mentality of like, you know, they always want you to succeed. And I'm just kind of hearing that in what you just said about, you know, each business owner, like you want each other to succeed. The phrase, I guess, is that phrase of like a rising tide lifts all boats, I guess.
Yeah.
And yeah, I guess I'd be curious, like, were there any examples of that, like, for you, like either when you had just started or maybe more recently that like, you know, somebody had reached out to you and like kind of, yeah, gave you that opportunity or elevated you?
Yes, this is a great question because I also wanted to give advice to other people that maybe want to get into filmmaking. So for me personally, I once went and took this course in Vancouver that was like inspiring me with my wedding filmmaking and learning from a guy from the States that came up just how to capture weddings better and teaching us tips and tricks, right? And so when I was going to Vancouver, I decided to reach out to some companies in the area that I found their work very inspiring. So I just messaged them on social media and was like, hey, I'm coming to town. Can we go for coffee? And can I ask you questions about your business? And so I think 3 or 4 companies met with me and I got to meet friends, and we've kept in touch over the years and like encourage each other in our projects and stuff like that. So I think hopefully this is answering your question. I kind of got a little off track, but yeah, other people have done that for me, and I think people that want to get into filming, like everyone is so willing to be like, here's like things that I've learned about it, and here's bad experiences I've had that maybe you can avoid, and give you tips and tricks on how to succeed.
Yeah, no, right on, yeah. There's lots more we could dive into there, but I'm excited to dive into our next video here, so we'll do that. It's a video you made with Catchy Cafe, and yeah, what can you tell me about this project?
Everything they make here is beautiful, and I love filming food. I think just because it's something I'm passionate about, and yeah, I just wanted to showcase some of the things they offer, and like you said, just promote other local businesses and help them hopefully grow their audience as well.
Yeah, yeah. And I remember you mentioning like you were the one of the youngins that was taking pictures of food before it was even really a thing. So I think that's a super nice tie-in that you get to do that now on a super professional scale. And kind of, you also mentioned noticing, and so I feel like I get the sense that you see beauty in these products, right? Whereas other people might, it's just a drink, where you see the colors and are thinking of ways to emphasize that, I think, is the sense that I get, at least. I don't know if that's true, but yeah.
I think that's true. But yeah, I guess if you're always doing it, you don't really think about what you're doing, right? Or that's unusual.
Yeah.
But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, no. Another question I had, again, kind of similar to the one-woman band aspect of it, is just like, what kind of equipment would you have used to potentially shoot something like that? Is it like one camera or multiple cameras, different lenses, lights? What do you typically have on hand? Is it bring everything in case you need it, or are you like super streamlined, I'm just going to limit myself?
Yeah, I think it depends on the project. For that, I think I just use like natural light. It's very bright in here. There's lots of windows, so that's nice. But yeah, I guess it depends on what we're doing and where we're shooting. I do have like a setup of lights, and I have multiple cameras, but I don't know. Sometimes it's just like get in, get out, quick, like one camera on a monopod. Then you have some movement that you can do. Because I used to just be like a tripod person, and then someone on Instagram was like, hey, I think if you got a monopod, it would really like enhance your work. And it was this guy in Europe that was a filmmaker, and he just like gave me this tip, and so I'm like, hey, I'm gonna get a monopod. And so just like little things like that, right? That change your style over time and help you evolve your product.
And I think there's actually something really beautiful in that sentiment there about, I feel like some people might get a comment like that from somebody they don't know, and they might either, brush it off or not take it seriously. So I guess I'm just curious, like what made you invest further and stay curious about that offer from that individual?
I think, just like when someone gives you feedback, you can either like take it really personally, or you can like learn from it and be like, maybe this is coming from like a good place, right? Not like your work is terrible. Right. You need to change everything about it. Because I think maybe sometimes if I say something, maybe that's not how I meant it. And so giving people the benefit of the doubt that they really like do have your best interests at heart, and they are trying to like encourage you and help you grow, then you can just like take little things like that and use them. And every like feedback you get from a project just helps you the next time, right? I
know we are getting close to the end of our time, but I would be remiss if we did not look at the jazzed chocolate bar video. So I think we'll hopefully play that here, and I think we'll just talk over it. But what can you tell me about this video, because it is like visually striking, and the product itself is just gorgeous. So what can you tell me about it?
Thank you. So that is my friend Andrea's company called Jewel Cocoa Bean, and she just started it a couple years ago, making chocolate, teaching herself how to make chocolate by learning from other people on the internet. And it's hard to make like things that pretty look bad on film. So I feel like, the chocolate speaks for itself, but just getting to like be creative and see her process of how it all is made is just so beautiful and fun to film. And I was very passionate about working on that for her.
Yeah. And then like, just another quick question I'd love to get in there about that is just like, how long does it take to make the bar at the end? Like, how long were you there? Like, or how many sessions did you do with them? And then you compress it into a very condensed video. So what can you tell me about that?
Well, she was big on planning that. Like, if you think of, like Martha Stewart or like those like baking shows.
Yeah.
How they like have like, oh, these ones are like half done and these ones were just starting. So she had like something called the shells, which is like the chocolate that's hardened already that first she paints the stencil with like a spray. I'm gonna get it wrong. Like
That's
an
all good.
airbrush.
Yeah.
There we go.
Yeah.
And then puts the chocolate in, and then it hardens. So she had that setting, like sitting on the counter, and then we took the other ones, and then she filled those ones, and then we left those, and then she put the end on it called capping, and then she tapped them out on the counter at the end.
yeah.
So yeah, it was just like a lot of pre-planning,
Okay.
but yeah, and for editing, it all depends. I can spend hours on like a 15-second or 30-second video, depending on how quickly the shots move and all that kind of stuff, right?
We're pretty much at the time, but I think we have your website handy here. And so if we just like pull that up, and if you could just tell us like a bit about what it is you offer and on through your website, and what that process was like of building your website or editing it, that would be awesome.
Okay, I feel like I'm always like improving and changing my website and trying to update it. But basically, I film a lot of commercial work. I film weddings, events, maybe other things too, depending on what they are, and timeline and all that kind of stuff, people's vision for it. But yeah, I'm always open to try new filmmaking projects too if people have ideas. So
Nice.
yeah.
Awesome. Right on. Well, I do think that's the time we have. I tried to squish quite a bit in here. So thank you so much for your time and energy. It's been really nice getting to talk to you.
It's been lovely. Thanks.
Awesome. This has been TELUS Storyhives on location in Lloydminster at Catchy Cafe. My name is Daniel J. Perryman, local theatre and filmmaker based in Lethbridge, Alberta. This is my co-host.
Michael Bartz. I make short films and podcasts about environmental sustainability. And this is...
Brittany Murphy, owner of BR Films and a filmmaker.
Awesome. Thank you so much for watching.
If you or someone you know has a story to tell, scan this QR code and get in touch with the Storyhive On Location team.